Hello, guys. How we doing tonight? I hate it when the music box doesn't work. Think I should try and code my own, actually. Maybe I can do that. I'll definitely give it a shot because this one is just bugging half the time. If you're new, welcome to these events. We basically look at the current day through the lens of the Rise trading model and look at the available setups and discuss whatever possibilities there were. We skipped yesterday, but now we are here for our first price action review of the week. So definitely excited to get into it. If we look at today, just from a daily standpoint, right, we discussed how last week we did have our retracement complete, right, to our first discount and efficiency, and Friday showed a nice reaction to that level, right? So what is our objective? Well, we were bullish, looking to target external range liquidity, right, the highs of the range. And Monday, we actually drove very near that level, but had just an awful reaction to it. It's been very high resistance these past 2 days. If we look at today on NASDAQ, it is almost, if we look at the high and low values here, we have a low at 24,721.75, and right here, 722.25. So 2 ticks away from taking out previous day low, and did not come close to taking out previous day high. So an inside day on NASDAQ, but we can see the lack of correlation with ES forming a full reversal day. What does a reversal day means? It takes out both sides. Simple as that. So we traded to previous day low and then took out previous day high. Now, in that regard, we did form some SMT that we could look to trade. So you had long opportunities. Also, in my book, you had some nice short retracement opportunities. But the truth is, it was very high resistance today, and none of them really worked out great. Right? We can definitely see that once we get down to the 15-minute time frame. You'll notice all of these lines are regarding SMT, right? This is our newest tool, our newest addition to the Rise Statistics indicators. I personally look at specifically the SMT in the morning session because that is what I trade recently, just current chart time frame and time filter, and I don't want to remove them after invalidation because I'm referring to them and seeing the potential setups that came from them. What we can see very clearly just initially, right, is previous day low, right? We have some very clear SMT overnight at previous day low right here at 330 actually, which just gives you an insight to go long, right? You've already taken out a key objective at the lows, but as you can see, we did trade a lot lower in these cases, but this is what formed SMT actually between NASDAQ and ES. So overall, this is just very much so a consolidation day, right? It is a small range day, especially on NASDAQ. It is an inside day now that we have the daily close. But how I was framing thing is that we traded near the open here and then formed our manipulation. This leg lower, let me actually highlight it. This leg lower right here, don't judge my drawing talents, but that leg lower was my manipulation for me. I did not require price to trade any lower than this. And of course, at 9:30, we did trade lower. And going into the next 15-minute candle, as you can see, we also traded a tiny bit lower. For me, the moves that were available is after this SMT is formed right at 9:30. And for myself, there was 10 a.m. news, so I was going to be waiting for 10 a.m. We'll talk about the criterias to trade news beforehand. To trade before the news in that case. But right here, as we can see, the SMT confirmed your possible framework to go long, and then counter SMT formed a possible framework to go short right after. If we go down to the 1 minute, we'll see these frameworks very, very clearly. Now, of course, there is a bunch of SMT in these cases, and not all of this SMT is useful to us. So that's why whenever I'm on my chart, I like to look at 3 to 5 historical, which are the default parameters. And in that way, you always see recent SMT. But right now, what we are going to be focusing on is the SMT formed near the open. So I just put the first 10 minutes. But as we can see, SMT formed right at 9:30, right here. What does this tell us? Well, my criteria for trading before news, and that this is something that has been shared very often. So if you're not a new attendee to price action reviews, you're very familiar with that concept. And that concept is that I am allowed to trade news if I have a clear judo swing, which means a clear move in the opposite direction of that I believe price is going, of my objective, and that clear move comes with SMT. Now, targeting London low is not very clear, but targeting current day's low, and yes, that is the exact same low, right? No difference. But in that case, looking to target current day's low, as all we've done for the day right now is consolidate and had a manipulation here, it's not a very high probability framework in my book. Now, a lot of people might have looked at taking this short. I never enter right at 9:30. But this next opportunity, just taking the entry at 9:30, which is within this inversion fair value gap, could have been an opportunity. Personally, this is not a trade I'm looking to take. So even if there is SMT and that criteria is met, I don't have a clear objective for price to go off of, right? As I explained, from this leg down, this is where we have our SMT at previous day low. So from 330 forward, right, 342, 46, whatever it is, 341 here. From this point forward, I am interested in longs. And at 9:30, we did not have any SMT on the lows and no clear judo swing lower. So at that point, my only job is to wait. Of course, we had all these SMT at the lows. So what I'm actually going to do is bring this indicator back, but I only want to focus on bullish SMT. And let's actually bring in a few more. Let's look at 10 most recent. In this case, just so it showcases all the bullish SMT that was offered, right? I believe that that is very important. So in this case, you would have had an initial long opportunity right after taking current day's low. And as we can see from ES as well, this formed another SMT. So we had SMT at previous day low. Now we had SMT at current day's low right here at 937 because NASDAQ took that level out while ES did not. This gave me the perfect framework to long. So in my book, this is definitely a good long here. 3PD array stop loss rule. You would have had IFVG here. This has yet to be a fair value gap, but then you have fair value gap and order block. So with a stop right here, I would have been very happy to take this trade, looking to target current day's high. Now, of course, it does not offer enough risk to reward, but my minimum is 1.7. So letting it trade back down to 1.7 gave you a beautiful entry right there. Definitely looking to target current day's high and then further. As we can see, this is a losing trade. Now, is this a bad trade? Not at all. I absolutely would take this trade every single time. Sometimes price is just not ready to go. And now it offers other opportunities. So as we can see here, we see the recent SMT that was formed comparing these swing points, but then both assets took out this low. Who am I to judge if price had gone down enough at this point? It doesn't matter. What matters is that my framework is still valid. How? Well, if we look at current day's low, there is still that SMT. So I still have my timing aspect that tells me, hey, I can look for a long to current day's high. We have our accumulation, we have our manipulation confirmed through this SMT, which of course got invalidated later on in the day, but that's not what we're talking about here. We have a valuable framework to go long. Now, it definitely took its time, right? This is our first available entry in this area, right? We formed a lot of PD arrays here, but your first entry would have come right here. You would have actually had an entry at this point, but it is too far away from my breaker block to consider. Just for the sake of cleanliness, I am going to put also the bullish mode on my breaker block indicator because I'm looking for long. So I don't need to see it. This is what I do basically, guys, if you are all wondering, when I'm on my charts and let's say I'm looking for a long, right? I understand that at this point in time, I am not considering any single shorts. So I don't want to see bearish breaker blocks because they don't do anything for me. So I just click on my indicator, which by the way, if you guys didn't know, you don't have to go click on the settings here or double click on the title. You can just click on any drawing from that indicator and it will open your settings. So for example, this is a breaker block and this is an SMT line. So if I double click on it, it will open my SMT settings. If you guys were unfamiliar, it's definitely a helpful thing to know. And if I'm looking at PD arrays, well, I have 1, I have 2, and I have 3 right here. So my stop is at the low of this candle. Now you might have seen this really fucking sucks, right? Because I'm still looking at the same target and I have enough risk to reward, and then I just get stopped out right here. And later on, we form SMT. Of course, once again, you also had a valid area to enter right here. And once again, that 3 PD array stop loss rule inverted fair value gap, and order block brings your stop all the way down here to that order block, would have been another loss. Now, you may ask, why are you showing us all the losses from your model today? Well, because it's part of the game. These are all good trades in my book. Now, of course, I'm not going to lie, this one is a little far-fetched. Why? Because we're already in premium. But so many times I take these trades because we are now ready to go all the way up. The only issue was we were consolidating. And only when that SMT occurred, and as you can see, we don't remove invalidated ones. So this is all the SMT that it showcases, not just the ones that are still valid now, right? It showcases every single SMT that you would have seen in real time. Only when that SMT occurred were we now ready to go up. And you might see, actually, we went up very quickly, which did not give you an opportunity right up until you're almost at that target. And at that point in time, your 3PD array stop loss rule just isn't worth it. I mean, it would be here even then, right? Fair value gap, order block, and you have an inverse fair value gap right here. But even then, it's just not worth you taking at this point in time, right? Not enough risk to reward. You'd have to wait. Hey, does it offer 1.7? It did. So in that case, at the bottom of that wick, you would have had your winning opportunity. But does this small, tiny win, right, where for me, this is a partial, and then I go break even, and I got stopped out break even, which this is, by the way, one thing I traded today. Is it worth all these losses? No. I'm down 3R on the day, and then I have another opportunity. In that case, definitely a hard one. So that's why I'm saying hard days like this are where you can learn the most. And why is that? Because those are all good trades in my book. Why did they not succeed? Because we had our high resistance day on NASDAQ. It happens. Some days are really fucking hard. And we also had Trump speaking at 11 a.m. So that is definitely something to look out for. It is one criteria that for me makes it so I don't really want to trade that much. Usually I like to trade before that happens. And see, now before that happens was pretty shit. But after Trump had his speech, you would have had a very nice PM opportunity. So that is what we're going to talk about. But I did want to mention all the optional, all the possible losses, because anyone that traded today, those are good trades in my book. Those are trades I would take again, even knowing there are losses, because there are positive EV. What do I mean by that? Well, these are valuable setups that make me money every day. But today, they didn't make me money in the AM session. They would have made me money in the PM session. Now, as you can see, PM session, I trade one of two things. I trade the lunch rate framework, which is something I've talked about quite at length. And if you're curious, in the Discord, you can go to the resources channel. You can head over and you'll find statistical range frameworks. You can search it over. In that PA review, I talked in depth about what they are, how I use them. But basically, as soon as lunch low gets taken right here, I'm looking to target lunch high. Now, I am seeing on ES that I don't see lunch low. Why is that? Where are you, lunch low? That is very weird to see in this case. Just lunch low missing. All right, well, I'll look into that. We probably have a tiny line where it got taken, but basically, that might be why. Overall, we see it on NASDAQ, so we can utilize it. But as you can see, we formed an initial breaker right here. And that one didn't give me any entries. And thank God, because we traded back down lower a little bit. And if I bring my SMT time filter, let's open the PM time filter, we'll notice that that actually forms SMT, which is just an additional confirmation that, hey, your trade is really fucking good. Now, in this case, the indicator does showcase this as your first entry. But in my book, and if you were looking at it live, you would have seen this array as your potential unicorn. And let's actually go through it, because I want to show you guys this. I'm always mentioning it. But if I look at this bar, so in this point in time, if I'm using the indicator live, and what is my overlap? Unicorn threshold, let's give it a little more, right? Just so we can see. And in this case, we would have seen, oh, do I not use IFVGs? That is something to look out for. But overall, this is the actual pessimistic entry. I like to tell you guys how it actually is, because when you're looking at it live, why would you wait for the better entry? Just take the entry, the first entry that is offered. And in this case, it would be this one, right? This is, even though it is not overlapping perfectly with my breaker block, this is valid enough for me. And if you're entering off of this IVG, you then have fair value gap and inversion fair value gap. So you still have your stop all the way down here. Now you might say, hey, this is a pretty wide stop, but 27 handles is good enough for me. And the main thing I'm worried about is, does it offer enough risk to reward to my objective? And if I'm trading the lunch rate framework and we took out lunch low, lunch high is my objective. And as we can see, 3.15 R is more than enough. Now, if you traded all 5 of these trades, you would have actually turned up a slight profit on the day. And that was my day. Was it very fun? No. Was it a lot of back and forth? Well, pretty much, because I had 3 losses in a row before getting a small win and then finally getting my better win. Since I went from being down 3R on the day to being basically up 1.5R, I decided to fully close my trade at this level. This was a purely psychology-based decision, right? But you also had data highs here from the Trump speech that were a great objective to follow along. You had multiple reasons to keep holding, and basically you would have stopped holding at the point where your trade is no longer valid, which would be when ES took out previous day high, just 10 minutes before the close right here. And that would have been great, right? That would have been what? Let's just use the close of the candle here. That would have been 1.6R more, almost 1.5R. So you had a lot of opportunities to hold a runner here. It's just not something I'm looking to do when I started the day with 3 losses. And if you're questioning my risk management, let me tell you guys exactly how it is. These first 2 losses are full risk. Then this is half risk. This is half risk as well. And this is back to full risk because this is a completely different session, right? I rarely trade the PM session. And I've actually said this before, there are some conditions. What are the main conditions? If the morning consolidates or if the lunch retraces and I can look for PM continuation, which means, for example, the morning trends, the lunch retraces, respects my first discount, well, I can look for this move in the PM session. Or the other criteria is if the morning consolidates, I'm going to be looking for something like this, and I'm going to be looking to trade this move with this raid happening during lunch. And that's actually what we got, right? We had a raid during lunch, and then we traded higher. This was our only good move of the day in my book. Of course, there was some potential shorts here that you could have taken. Let me just bring back also bearish breaker blocks so we can see it. But as you can see, at that point on, with this potential entry, it just does not offer enough, right? Your stop loss placement will be here. You have fair value gap, inversion fair value gap from your entry and order block. If I'm looking to target 2R, I could have looked to target previous day low, for example, but that is not a valid target since we already have taken previous day low on ES. What you could look to target in any other case would have been standard deviations. So for example, if you're using this breaker block, let me just move this aside. If you're using this breaker block, you could use standard deviation levels. But see, in that case, 4R, which is terminus, does not offer enough risk to reward. So you would have to go break even here. And as you can see, get broken even right after. This is the only short I would consider in the day because after taking out these levels, as you can see, there is SMT, right? With ES not having taken this level. Whenever we have what people call these high resistance days, right? Consolidation days, however you want to call them, you're going to see a lot of divergence at both sides of the range. And the truth is, the main opportunities are when you're at those extremes. So after taking current day's high, understand we're currently consolidating, which means there's a very high chance of a retracement or reversal. So these are my short opportunities. Down here, it's too late. And yeah, it didn't give me an entry. So what? Right? Down here, it's too late. Good longs are going to be down here. And as you can see, the longs that worked actually, well, you can say this one worked, but the actual longs that worked were at the bottom of this range, right? And the current daily range at that point is, let me get it, is this one. So if that's your current daily range right here, just approximately, right? No need to be very precise in this sense. And I'm looking to enter here. I'm not going to be looking to enter near this level. I'm going to be looking to enter in that bottom quarter, in that top quarter for shorts. That's what you have to focus on. But overall, those are very hard days to trade. And the truth is, there are so many more easy days than there are hard days. So your only job as a trader is to make sure that on those hard days, you don't lose more than you win on your good days. So how do you do that? Well, you set a maximum loss limit. For me, that is not an amount of money. It is an amount of trades. Because I understand that after I lose 2 trades in a row, the likeliness is I'm going to lose one more right after. And as you can see, that actually happened. So I either don't trade this or take half risk. And if I have a nice PM opportunity, I can spend the rest of my risk on that trade. And that's what happened today. Very, very hard day. I mean, if I didn't have that win, it would have been just a losing day, right? I would have been down 2.8 R, I believe it was, at my worst today. So definitely a harder day to trade. But your only job is to survive here. And I think that's why I spent so much time talking about that stuff tonight. But your only job on days like this is to survive. And yeah, sometimes you'll get a PM trade that covers your whole morning losses, but that doesn't always happen. And once again, your only job in this sense is going to be to survive. What are these? I have way too many drawings I need to get rid of. I have all these inputs from different line drawings and it's pissing me off. Oh, it is from these trades. I should change that. I believe I can. Yeah, price labels. Let's just remove these price labels. Let's do this and remove the price labels. Awesome. So that way you don't see those price labels, in case you guys were wondering. Now, a lot of information shared. Any questions about today? I'm happy to go over any setups that were missed. Maybe you guys have questions in relation to those. Is that a good trade? Is that a bad trade? But as I said, today is truly about focusing on the little things like, hey, my only job is to survive here. I don't need to catch this winning trade. I can take 2 losses and just get out. And if I'm down 2R, I know that a winning day for me is more than 2R on average, which means that I only have to focus on having more winning days than losing days. I'm not seeing any of you guys type, so I'm guessing it was all pretty clear. Those types of days, we get a lot less people in the Discord because a lot of people got railed. So I'm very happy to see you guys. Definitely hope you guys didn't get hit too hard today, but it was one of those harder days to trade, in my opinion. I mean, pretty clearly. I mean, inside day on NASDAQ, reversal day on ES. Pretty aggressive there. Yeah, tough day. As I said, nothing much you can do on those days. You can try and focus on it as much as you want, but you're way better off focusing your time on making more money on good days than trying to make money on bad days. So on bad days, your only job is to survive. On good days, your job is to push, push, push. That is actually one of the biggest difference makers. And a lot of people tell you, you have to be okay with losing. Well, on days like today, you have to be okay with losing and getting out. Biggest difference makers is optimizing your wins in my book, not optimizing your worst possible days. Hopefully that makes sense. What would be the deviation low to high on that lunch law? I wanted to clarify. We'll see if I am trading these breaker blocks, right? So you have this breaker block, which is basically this range from A to B, and then you have this raid. But it's not that breaker block that would have traded because that breaker block got invalidated here. It is actually this range right here. From this point to this point. Here, let me use a box to display this, and let's just use some lines here so we don't get too confused. Let me just do it like that. That's going to be a lot more useful, and let's just make that 2. There we go. So right here, this box is your breaker block. And then you have the A point, the B point, this is just the initial range, and then the C point right here, which is the manipulation, takes out the low. And then once we break back above, as we can see from this little signal, is where it becomes a breaker block, right? So I like to use breaker block standard deviations. So I'll use the entire initial range. And as you can see, we had a retracement just after reaching 2 to 2.5, and 4 was very near lunch high, which was our terminus of that move. So very beautiful standard deviations in this case of this range. But this is the one that is valid. And if you were to use manipulation range deviations, which is what is the most popular, I've made multiple studies, statistical studies, on why breaker block standard deviations are better. But if you are using the manipulation range standard deviations, it would be that part, right? The leg that took out the low, and that would bring you pretty similar results, right? With the 4 standard deviations actually being a little closer to lunch high, but it is less representative, right? For myself, I did not look, by the way, to take a partial in this case. Sorry, I was just spamming undo. I did not look to take a partial in this case because it just wasn't worth it, right? If I was to look at a partial, it would be the first discount in efficiency, which was somewhere here. Since it was not worth it and I was already down tremendous on the day, I decided to just go break even. And as you can see, that was a little bit of a scare, but still reached the final objective for a beautiful PM clutch trade, as I like to call it. Does that make sense, billions? Hopefully it does. All right. Well, we're going to call it a night here if we don't have any additional questions. Once again, I just want to reiterate, don't spend too much mental capital on days like this, right? Don't hit yourself. Don't pull yourself down just because you didn't perform well. Your job on days like this as expansion traders, that is what I am personally, right? If you're not trading expansions in the futures markets, well, specifically in the indices futures markets, you're not trading right. I'm going to be honest, right? I'm not telling you to use specific concepts here. I'm telling you, you should be looking for price to expand. That is how you trade these markets. If not, you can go trade metals, you can go trade commodities, right? There are a bunch of things that range, but these are expanding markets, right? And on days where we do not expand, your only job as a trader is just to survive, right? So cut your losses early if you can, right? If you can recognize it. On that note, though, we're going to call it a night. We're going to have many more PA reviews this week, right? Tomorrow and on Friday. So I will see you guys all there. Thank you all for showing up. I am glad no one got hit too hard, but yes, tough day. We review, we take notes, and we move on. See you all tomorrow, guys. Good luck trading.